Hi everyone! Welcome back to my little corner of the internet where I talk about whatever I want, which is mostly movies and TV. Yay! Today, I want to talk about Asian deadly games, movies and shows. So, with Squid Game taking over the world like it did, can't help but look back at a few other deadly game style movies and shows and maybe dive a little deeper into each one's interpretation and meaning. Would you like to join me? Please do. Let's go in chronological order. Alright, so first one on my list is Battle Royale.
Battle Royale!
If you've never heard about or watched this movie before, it is based on a book of the same name. It takes place in futuristic Japan, or Japan of the future, well, more likely, where adults have become very scared of teenagers, and in order to maintain some semblance of control, they enact the BR Act. In it, every year, one high school class gets randomly selected to participate in a deadly game, where at the end of 3 days, only one student is left standing. If this sounds familiar and you're thinking, wait, isn't that like really similar to Hunger Games? Battle Royale was first. But you can enjoy both. I'm not gonna go on that tangent, okay? So let's focus back on Battle Royale. The students are dropped on an uninhabited island and equipped with random weapons with huge quotation marks, because that can be anything from like a machine gun to a paper fan. On top of that, they get a deadly color that explodes if they go into a danger zone, a predetermined danger zone that changes throughout the day. Or 2, if after 3 days there is more than one student alive. So in terms of games, there aren't really any. The whole situation is considered a game. By the people that run it, and it's televised, and people know that it exists. But the students don't have to play anything. They just have to kill or be killed. It is very bloody, completely crazy, and is one of my favorite movies. Also, fun fact, it's also one of Quentin Tarantino's favorite movies, which is why Chiaki Kuriyama is in Kill Bill, playing a similar character. So, on the one hand, we can say this is an outlier, or even one that shouldn't count. But I can't really do that because I truly believe it is the springboard for the rest of the movies and shows we are going to discuss. It has... I have a sneeze stuck in my brain. Okay. It has the pressure cooker aspect of kill or be killed. There is a gamification by randomizing weapons, which could be considered a possible equalizing factor, but not really. You don't know what weapon you will get, if any. So someone can become a bigger or smaller threat depending on their weapon and their willingness or ability to use it. There is also the willingness to participate. There are those who go in head first, ready to kill anyone in sight. There are those who hide and only kill in self-defense. And there are those who refuse to do either and choose to just kill themselves. Finally, there's also the political aspect of it, which is, the Japan shown in this movie is very bleak and depressing for everyone. There doesn't seem to be like a blissful end to what is happening, and this so-called solution is clearly not working for whatever it's supposed to do. So that's why I think this movie counts. On top of that, you have this beautiful scenery of an uninhabited island, and it is very clearly a product of its time. You got Takeshi Kitano in there, the music, it's classical music, but it's just like, now every time I hear it, it's very clearly Battle Royale. I was in Shinjuku the other day, and there was this giant commercial for like a host club, and they were using the Battle Royale music, and I didn't know why, and I was like, this is very odd. So do with that as you will. But basically, I do think this movie is like the starting point for everything going forward. So let's go to the next one. And the next one on my list is Kami-sama Yutori, or the English translation of it is As the Gods Will. It is based on a manga of the same name and directed by the super awesome Takashi Miike of Ichi the Killer fame. So the movie does something very interesting by dropping us in the middle of an already halfway done deadly game. We see a bunch of students covered in beads of blood, so it's very, very stylized, in their classroom as they play red light, green light, with a Daruma doll calling the shot. Koronda! Gire. Many people claimed Squid Game ripped off its idea from this movie/manga, and I can definitely see why. But while the first game is the same, and the idea of specifically using children's games is definitely there, the overall look, feel, and meaning behind the two is completely different. So I'll give them that. Plus, I really enjoyed Squid Game, so whatever. Here, as I said, we start in a school. We then find out that each class is playing the same game at the same time. And so the winner of each class then gets to move on to the next game. The kids aren't kidnapped to play, like in Battle Royale, nor do they volunteer, like in Squid Game. It just kind of happened. There doesn't seem to be a political scheme behind it or a social commentary, which I think is part of the movie's biggest flaw, because the acting is great and the games are really cool, and like the visuals, while like sometimes kind of janky Japanese CGI style, are still very interesting. But like many more recent Japanese productions, there seems to be this unspoken rule where you don't criticize the government or anything like that. So the result is always something supernatural or otherworldly. It's really unfortunate, because I would still recommend you to watch this movie at least once. Again, the games are really cool looking, and they're using very Japanese games in here. So it's a very interesting cultural look at things as well. The acting is really well done, and the crazy is up to 100. So I can't say don't watch it, but it is kind of like like when you watch the end, you're like, really? This is where we're going? Okay. And like, I haven't read the manga, so it might be exactly what the manga is doing. Still, I'm in favor of more grounded reasoning, I guess. All right. Next, we are moving on to TV. We've done a couple movies. Now let's go to TV. And this one is also based on a manga and is also Japanese, but it's Netflix. So we are talking about Alice in Borderland. And as the title suggests, it's kind of a play on Alice in Wonderland. Our main character is Ryohei Arisu. Get it? Arisu. Alice. Clever. So he is what Japan calls a NEET. NEET. It stands for neither in employment, education, or training. Basically, Arisu just spends his days playing video games or goofing off with his friends. He's kind of rejected by his brother and father, and he's feeling kind of alone in the world. So one day he goes and hangs out with his friends in Shibuya when they do something really stupid and get chased by a cop. So in order to escape him, they hide in the station bathroom. But when they come out of the bathroom, they find Shibuya completely deserted. They are then forced to participate in a series of deadly games. And winning a game grants you a visa, which can then be extended with each win. If your visa expires, though, this red laser beam shoots down from the sky and kills you. So the level of difficulty and type of game is determined by cards, like playing cards. So the higher the number, the more difficult it is. And the type of card, heart, diamond, whatever, determines the type of game. So if it's one where you will need to do some emotional manipulation, for example. The games are not necessarily children's games, but they are all very interesting to watch. And again, this show, just like the previous ones, they're very beautifully done. Set design is stunning. There is nothing eerier than an abandoned Shibuya, because we've all seen the Shibuya crossing. It's so famous, right? So imagine not seeing it, which I know is a weird thing, but just it's crazy. The acting of the main characters is great, but the show does fall into the trap of making the side characters caricatures. This is unfortunately a very common occurrence with Japanese dramas, especially those based on anime or manga. They try to depict them as they would in the manga, where everything is like super hyper exaggerated for entertainment purposes. But in real life, it just doesn't come off as real. So it's very frustrating. You're like, this is so good, but you guys are so ridiculous, and not in a good way. On top of that, the reason why they're forced to play the game, where they are really, how or if the game can be stopped, are all pretty unclear. There is a season 2 coming up very soon, like December 22nd, so like real soon. So maybe we'll get more answers. The only thing I know is that we'll get 100% more Yamapi, so I'm all for it, because if Yamapi is in it, I will watch it. But that's kind of where we are. I do recommend the show. I think it is very interesting to watch. There is a twist very early on that I did not see coming. I did not think they would go there, at least, especially not so soon. So that is pretty cool. But again, you have to take the side characters with a grain of salt. But next up, last but not least, the one everybody knows, Squid Game. Funny enough, it's also the only non-Japanese one. So I don't know. Let's talk about it. It's the only non-Japanese one and is the most popular one. Let's recap. Okay, for the 3 of you who haven't watched it. So we got 456 people who are in deep financial crisis that volunteer to play children's games in order for the winner to get 45.6 billion won, which is a lot of money in whatever currency you want. Very quickly they learn that in order to win the money, everyone else has to die. So obviously, Squid Game has been heavily influenced by its predecessors. I don't think there's any doubt about it, nor is there anything wrong with it. Media or literature and movies are always based off of each other. It's what you do with the base that is interesting. But then again, we can ask, why did Squid Game become the global phenomena that it became? It's also an award-winning drama in, like, you know, not Grammys, Emmys and Golden Globes and, you know, like the big Western award shows. What makes this one stand out more than the other 3 on the list? And while yes, Battle Royale is extremely successful, I do think it's in a cult movie sort of way. So it can't only be that it's Korean, right? That would be kind of racist. But then again, I do think it does play a big part of it, right? So first of all, let's just talk about the show itself, right? It's gorgeous. The sets are incredible. The games are super entertaining to watch. The score for this movie is really intense. The acting is superb, except for a few actors who are actually doing the Japanese thing of overacting.
You're at a 10, I need you at a 2.
Most of them are very grounded and relatable in some way. So, you know, how does this show being Korean and not Japanese play in its popularity? I mean, is it the success of K-pop suddenly? Maybe a little. I mean, you can't completely scratch that off, right? People have started to being curious about Korean entertainment in general, and then you have Parasite the previous year taking over the world as well. But in addition to that, you have the issue that Japan does not like sharing. It's incredibly hard to find Japanese movies and TV shows outside of Japan unless it's anime. It is extremely frustrating. Yeah, I just kind of like...
flames on the side of my face.
On top of that, we have the cultural aspect of acting. Japanese acting is very different from Western acting. They go very big to the point of not being real. And this is not for everyone. It's, you have to kind of accept it or reject it, and it's up to you. Korean acting aligns itself much more with Western standards. And Korea itself, right, is intent on sharing its pop culture with the world. So I think this is a huge difference and a really big sticking point. Countries that want to share their pop culture versus countries that don't. Or don't, maybe they do a little bit, but they don't feel the need, the urge, the urgency to do it, because their own business model works very well for them. It's very upsetting because I want the world to share. It's part of the reason why I love Netflix so much, because they make original shows all around the world, so you can really experience different cultures through their dramas. So yeah, these are my very scattered, even though I wrote everything down, thoughts. How about you? Have you watched any of these? Which ones? Did you like them? Did you not? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below or in the community tab. Did you know that I post on the community tab every time I upload a video? You can comment there if you feel too exposed in the video comments area. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and do all the YouTubey things. And I'll see you next time. Bye!